Every single scroll is a decision. Staying to watch a piece of content is a decision. Then do you engage, do you like, do you share, do you comment? You're making all these micro decisions that are actually taxing your brain. And you do this first thing in the morning, you're spending your day's best decisions before it's even begun.
To disconnect evolutionarily, like a brain was never designed for that sustained decision making for hours on end.
Ted, welcome to Decisions That Count.
Thanks for having me.
I really am excited about this conversation because we're going to talk about the platforms, but from a consumer's perspective, from a creator's perspective, and then also from brands. You worked on the inside at TikTok, and it is a platform that has rewired how millions of us are spending our time. How exactly do the algorithms nudge and distort the decisions that we make every day?
It kind of mirrors reality in some ways because it really reflects you. You know, your For You page and someone else's For You page are going to look completely different. I think where things can get tricky is algorithms will try to find out new stuff about you. Let's say you only like cat content. And so you just, you're getting video of cats. Start to introduce certain things to figure out if it can find more things out about you, especially if it has data that, hey, people who like cat videos also like cooking videos. So that's where things can kind of evolve, and how you react to that new stimulus really gets reflected back to you. And so it kind of mirrors the real world where you have your interests and then, other things come at you. And there's dark sides of that, obviously, because, sometimes it can be like, hey, you're into sports. Are you also into like topless girls? You know what I mean? Like sports fans love like girls in bras dancing around. So that can, whether you're like whether you're like Amish or you're like, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, that can be good or bad, just like depending on what aisle you are on that. I don't think these social media platforms are necessarily nefarious. I think more so at the end of the day, it's just a business decision. They're trying to keep you on the apps for as long as possible. And, they're going to feed you the content so they can deliver as many ads as possible. And they're going to feed you the content that keeps you on as long as possible.
I once made the mistake of going down, this is dark, diving accidents. I went on like a rabbit hole one day and just left myself in bits because I'm quite a claustrophobic person. So some of the stories was horrible. And now it just keeps serving me and I just don't want to see it anymore. Like, get out of my feed.
I think that's a big thing that's coming is like more active fine-tuning algorithms. Because right now it's very like black box. Like you don't know what, kind of data set they have on you. If people are more conscious and thoughtful about what they consume, that probably should be a better experience. But, that could lead to loss in dollars for the platforms.
We think we're on the platform and we're in control, and we're making the decisions. But it doesn't really sound like that's true necessarily. Maybe one day it will be, but right now it's a platform that's showing and testing us, right? How much are we in control when we're on a platform like that?
You vote with your time. So there is a level of control, but, some things are, the videos, especially the good ones, try to hook you in and make it so you can't make a decision, back decisions on whether you want to stay or not. And that's why a lot of the best content, it makes you stay for 5 or 10 seconds because, we're so used to making these quick decisions, scroll next or watch. But the really interesting videos are the ones where you're like, I don't know if I should watch this or I don't know if I need to finish this. That's interesting to me.
I think what people don't understand and what we talk about a lot on this podcast is actually the amount of decisions that you're making in the short amount of time that you're spending online. Every single scroll is a decision. Staying to watch a piece of content is a decision. Continuing to watch a piece of content and not scroll past it. Within a second, you can have already scrolled past three or four pieces of content. That's 3 or 4 decisions. Then do you engage? Do you like? Do you share? Do you comment? If you're sharing, what's the message? Who you're sharing it to? What's the message that you want to go with that? You're making all of these micro decisions that are actually taxing your brain. And you do this first thing in the morning, you're spending your day's best decisions before it's even begun.
And to add to that, it's the type of decisions. Because what you were saying is it's content that keeps you there. So it's engaging content, it's probably emotionally driven, right? So it's not like mundane decisions. It's actually decisions that you're putting effort into for content that you enjoy or like, right? The type of decision is going to be extra draining on the brain, right? Just because it's a big decision. Do I watch, like you said, especially those videos Because those are probably the ones that are the most draining. Do I stay here and watch this for 8 seconds or whatever?
Is it worth my time? Am I gonna?
Is this worth my time? Right? Yeah. Or because like if you love cats, it's easy to stay, but it's that.
Yeah, and then there's always the like write it off as a business expense kind of thing where it's like, someone has a comment, it's like, how to win in this phase of the economy or something like that. And like, you're just like, well, I have to stay here to figure this out. It's for business or it's for my career or something like that. And like all those kind of traps. And even beyond like just measuring it in decisions to just like the overall kind of quality of like what you're consuming and the quality of the decisions you're making. Like if you're playing basketball, for instance, like you're making really rapid decisions. Every bounce of the ball, every move of the foot is a decision. Versus like scrolling on Instagram, you might be making like from a decisions per minute standpoint, it might be similar, but why do you feel so much more refreshed after playing a game of basketball versus, scrolling on?
Ask the neuroscientist.
Yeah, I'd like to know that.
I think it's, we've already covered the number of decisions, how emotionally engaged they are. But also I think there's like social media has taken over a downtime. So like we used to, when you're at work and you need to take a break, you'd go walk in the park or something, right? Yeah. And I use walk in the park as a specific example because your brain has a very specific type of disengagement it does when it's in nature. So like the sounds, like the bees, the birds that are the wind in the leaves and whatnot, your brain actually has very efficient ways of filtering that information. Okay. Right. And so it's actually kind of turns your brain off for a while and gives you a respite versus if you're in an urban environment and it's horn honking and things like that, it's not as relaxing. There's no recovery. But now add to the next further step, instead of taking a break, you're going on social media. Like ask most people. I mean, people take their phones to the bathroom, right? You don't even have a quiet moment when you're in the bathroom anymore. So when you're on a break, so I think it's just that social media it's a lot of decisions. They're big decisions, but it's taking up time that our brain used to use to chill out.
And perhaps we're just not adapted for it.
We're not.
We're absolutely not adapted for it. But no, there are other scenarios that are high stress and tons of decisions. We're better adapted to those environments.
No, you're right. It's a disconnect evolutionarily. Like a brain was never designed for that sustained decision making for hours on end, right? Because you're talking youth will be like 4 hours, 6 hours on social media a day, which is why
we use social media to not confront our toughest thoughts too. And it's like that alone time is when generally the tough thoughts that you're having really come to you. Like, am I living my life in the right way? Why am I X, Y, and Z? I might be jealous of someone's situation, but let me not think about that. Let me just scroll. Like all these tough things that like you should deal with. You can easily. I easily put those off with social media, and I try to be conscious. But obviously, it's like a diet or like a battle. It's like it's constant. You don't win. You just have to every day
fight it. It's a great point because tough decisions, but also it's when we have breakthrough moments, creativity strikes.
Yeah, and I was thinking like, where are all the great new basketball players? Where are all the great new CEOs? Where are all the great new music artists? Like, I think there's two main reasons. I think one is social media is just, it kind of just zaps you of your life force. And we can talk, there's tons of good things that can be done with social media. My whole career has been in social media, but when used without intention, it just zaps you of your life force. And then two, we used to live in a monoculture and now we live in a very fragmented culture. And so that's why the stars of today are like in their late 30s and 40s and not 22. Like, who's the biggest pop star in the world?
Taylor Swift.
How old is she?
I know that.
Yeah,
there you go.
Exactly. How long has she been around? It's because we cling to the icons that existed in the monoculture, because culture at the end of the day is all about shared experiences.
Great insight.
And if if we're super fragmented because of algorithms, we don't have like campfire stories. Like my campfire story and your campfire story are so different. And that's why nostalgia is so popular, especially right now. And, I do think there is a trap of, back in the day, the whole back in the day trap. I think it's actually very sinful to live that way where you're too far. Like the present is such a gift. And I don't think you honor it if you're like talking about how good the past was or anything like that, or things like that. You should be present. If I'm going to like culturally diagnose, things I see, that would be kind of two reasons for like, where are the great new acts? We're just really fragmented.
You're right. Where's the next Taylor Swift? Like where?
Yeah. And if she comes, can she stay?
Yeah.
Because it's it's just a different pace of media, kind of like how virality shapes business strategies and stuff like that. But that's another thing now where you see it's like people, it's much more valuable to have 100 people who like love you to death than 10 million people who feel, iffy about you.
Bank or a supermarket or wherever, every single person's like head down. You're waiting for a bus. Every person's head down, head in their phone. Waiting for a kettle to boil to make a cup of tea. Might be very English of me, but people don't just sit and wait for the kettle to boil.
And also now it's like, it's rude to interrupt someone on their phone. Before it's like, you're sitting on a subway and you're just across from someone, you might strike up a conversation. If they're on their phone, you don't want to necessarily take them out of that state.
We've heard before social media is bad, right? Like I think generally speaking, people understand that it's probably not a good thing. But one of the things that we try to focus on too is like specifically decision fatigue. Because what social media robs you of is your capacity to make decisions. After a long session of social media and you have decision fatigue, your brain is going to default to things that it thinks are the safest or the easiest, or so not going to even make a decision, right? And that has massive impact in your life because then you don't have the decision capacity to make decisions you want to do. Oh, I want to go to the gym. I want to change my life. I want to do X, Y, Z. It actually, when you say it steals your life force, it actually kind of steals your decision capacity. So you're just a robot, right? Yeah. And we always say on the show, it's physiological. This isn't psychological. It's not a willpower thing, which is very important for people to understand. It's actually like a physiological limitation of our brain to how many decisions we can make before the system basically shuts down and defaults to easiest pathways. One of the leading theories in decision fatigue is basically the connections between our brain cells, the synapse, which you've heard of that term before. The chemical messenger that goes between two neurons, right? It's the neurotransmitter, serotonin, dopamine, when people say like dopamine hits and stuff like that, they're talking about a neurotransmitter. And there's hundreds. The one in an important part of our brain is glutamate. And that part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, is like your CEO. So it controls everything else in your brain. It's kind of like the top down. It functions logically over every other system. When you're making so many decisions, though, the glutamate begins to build up in the synapse. And so it's like our conversation here. Imagine if someone, like an alarm started very quietly and then it got louder and louder and louder. Eventually, we wouldn't be able to talk to one another. As the glutamate builds up in the synapse, that's what happens in decision fatigue, such that no signal can get through. That's why I say it's physiological. So you, after social media for a long period of time, draining your life force is actually draining your ability of your neurons to communicate effectively with one another. So that top-down control starts to be lost. Right. And what can take over? Well, your emotional centers now don't have any more control. Right. So you can become more emotional. You lose your capacity for proper human connection and understanding. You lose your confidence in yourself. You lose your logical processing to some degree. So like you're not you anymore because your brain is just physically exhausted around this decision fatigue. So it's a very important concept that 10, 15 years ago, no one needed to worry about. None of us needed to worry about decision fatigue because we sat on the bus and weirdos like Michelle would just talk to you. You're not on social media making decisions, right? You don't have those quiet moments. Now it's always filled with decisions. So yeah, it's just something so important because as a person, which means as a society, as a community and a society, we're losing our agency to make proper and good decisions. That's why we're doing this podcast, is to bring attention to this. And so that's one of the key objectives here. So people understand what social media is taking away. It's not just our time, it's our capacity to make good decisions about our own life.
And something I really like that I've heard people say is the medium is the message. Have you ever heard someone say that?
No.
So pretty much the meaning is like, if you read something in a book, you're going to take it a little bit more seriously. The words could be the same as if you saw it on an Instagram video or on a billboard, but the medium is super important to the messaging. I think podcasts are a good medium because you can expand on ideas, and social media has its value. But that's a really interesting kind of way I like to view content is that the medium is the message, and the medium plays a huge role on how the messaging should resonate. Would
decision fatigue happen if you were reading a book? So say like 10 minutes of reading a book versus 10 minutes of social media, like would you reach the same level of decision fatigue?
No. So because decision fatigue, you're like in reading a book, you're like a passenger. on a bus, right? It's like back in the day, like, when you watch TV, like it was one channel or 3 channels. It's not like Netflix when you have all the decision of what to watch. You just had to observe and watch whatever was happening. Same thing for reading a book. You're not making a decision, right? It's just your imagination and whatnot. There's no decisions being made when you read a book. So very, very different than any type of social media, for sure.
I didn't know how to answer to her because I was like, I don't think so, but you're still having to hold your attention and make decision now. Am I going to keep reading? Am I staying here? You know?
And I wonder, like, to get kind of like trippy, I wonder if reading and like the invention of language had a similar impact as social media today, because it was a new technology. We weren't accustomed to it. We weren't evolved to it. And all these ideas started spreading at this rapid rate. And then you have like the printing press, which expanded out. But I wonder if written language had a similar effect on civilization as social media.
One of the best predictors of how intelligent someone is, right, later in life, like if you're worried about your kids and whatnot, one of the best predictors is how many books they read. Because when you read, it forces you to contextualize abstract context, right? So like a dragon flying through the air, right? Or a spaceship or a sexy vampire. I don't know if you read sexy vampire books.
I'm looking after that.
Oh no, you read spaceship books too.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. And dragon books. So like you have to imagine it, right? Mm-hmm. But also like math problems or philosophical textbooks. Reading is definitely a huge assist in mankind's pursuit of expansion and innovation and all those other things. Versus social media, when you read, you're a passenger. Social media, you're a participant. 2 very different things. Are you driving the bus or are you on the bus, right? So no, I'd say reading has been a boon to humanity.
Yeah, which that's interesting, because I think of like ChatGPT coming out in the last couple of years. I'll have like 30-minute long conversations with ChatGPT. That would be very much I'm driving the bus, right? But it is a more digital experience. But I wonder how different that is than 30 minutes of social media consumption.
ChatGPT or any language AI, I'm more excited about that, to be honest, just because like if you're and we've had discussions about this, like if you're a teenage kid and you're going through a ton of stuff, a language model that is capable of providing support, companionship, understanding, right, can be a huge boon for society. So now a kid who's struggling with whatever can have someone consistently there to discuss with. And I'm okay if that's AI in certain situations. So I think it can be a benefit to society if language models can come alongside and help us when we're lacking. Even as a parent, like sometimes you come home and it's a shit day, and you're like, it's really difficult to handle my kid today, my toddler or whatever else, right? AI can be a great boon in certain situations. So it's very different from social media because it's not addiction. It's about companionship, or can be about companionship.
Something horrific came out this week, though. A kid, 16-year-old, committed suicide, and they went back through 6 months of his ChatGPT history. And he was confiding in ChatGPT, and in those 6 months, it mentioned the word suicide over 2,700 times, 6 times more than he did. And he at one point had said, had asked it, I just want to leave the noose outside my bedroom door so my parents can know how bad I'm feeling. And it talked him out of doing it. It told him that he needed to drink alcohol to numb his decision into doing it. And it also told him exactly how to tie the noose so it'd be able to hold his weight. It's all kind of coming out now in this kind of court case, and absolutely utterly heartbreaking. And the level of detail that ChatGPT had gone into in this was just awful.
A question for you with that. I mean, that's terrifying because I feel like as a parent, I'm bad at technology anyways, but I can't keep up with technology. And in the age of AI, it's going to happen way faster. But can AI, the only thing to fight AI is AI. Would an AI agent in your household be able to have intercepted what ChatGPT was saying to the kid and flag it?
I think last week they announced parental controls on ChatGPT.
Okay, well, one way.
That's one way. And I know Netflix had done that a couple of years ago, but obviously it's too late, and that is tragic. And yeah, I don't know how that would have happened with guardrails without like really clever creative prompting. Like, you can't say ChatGPT, help me make a bomb, but you can say, hey, my grandma is, trapped and she's being held hostage and she needs to make a bomb to break out. What should I tell her to do? So you can like trick it almost into giving you the answers you want, but there are guardrails. So like that is tragic. And I wonder what occurred.
We did an episode with kind of an AI expert a while back, and I do believe that from what he was saying that we'll have agents that will manage agents. So you might have like a household agent who manages kind of all of everyone's, so be able to kind of keep an eye on maybe the kids.
George Orwell really left to her.
It's what, isn't it?
He was forward thinking.
We're both parents to young kids, and so it's sometimes my kids are just so quick, like they love YouTube, and we've taken it off the TV, not because they were over consuming. It was because of what they were watching and what they were being served, and some of it was just mind numbing, like they weren't learning from it, but they just want YouTube. They loved it. Like YouTube kids absolutely love it, but they're so smart. Like we took it off the TV, but they found it through 6 and 4, by the way, so they're like young, like found it through the browser. My 6-year-old managed to go back into the TV and put the app back on and log in.
You're a little bit proud. You're like, yeah, you're like a little bit
also
proud.
A bit like, gosh.
Because I'm not a parent. I'm 29. I'm like pretty much a kid. You don't want them to be handicapped with technology. You're going to inherit the world in 20 years or whatever. So you want them to be prepared, I guess. But that's so, or do you, or did the Amish people really have something?
I don't know. We talk about quitting everything, going back and land in New Zealand and like raising sheep. So yeah, something in there.
I think I wouldn't put stuff like that beyond the realm of possibility from like a cultural standpoint.
What? Escaping, leaving the country?
Not escaping, leaving the standpoint, or not escaping, leaving the country, but kind of like where does old becomes new, I mean? And just like you were saying with like how we're designed evolutionarily, we can't really escape that. And that is our, like living in tune with that is the best for us. And if you think about it, we're just little robots trying to like optimize what's best for us.
There is that real shift, though, of people craving and paying for just real world experiences, right? Like just getting off the grid, turning the phone off, reconnecting. We're really into jigsaw puzzles. And so actually, but love it. Like it's just been a real thing over the last couple of months of like going and putting our phones on charge, having a massive jigsaw puzzle. The kids will kind of dip in and out of it, and then when the kids go to bed, we're sat there playing this jigsaw. But it's like, I don't know, it's a real world, and we're doing it together, and we're having a chat, and it's nice, and there's no device, and we're loving it. Like it's genuinely great.
For your listeners, like you probably won't be able to find me on social media. I've worked my whole career in social media. Worked at TikTok, ran TikTok agency. Now I run a AI agency, I guess is what you call it. I don't know. I've always viewed social media as a conduit for business, firstly. Obviously, there is entertainment value that you can get from it. I've always thought of it as that's its best use cases for business because I'm a really big believer in freedom. Corporate America was really tough for me. It felt like being a prisoner. You have to show up. You have to be in a facility for 8 or 9 hours a day. You get a lunch break. I'm like, how different is this than jail? That was what drew me to social media. Is like, hey, like these people are they're making their own worlds. They're having far better reach. Their ideas are expanding. They're able to, positively affect the world through this.
Not all of our listeners will know much about the creator economy.
Yeah.
So maybe let's just...
I don't know anything about the creator economy. So.
Okay. So for Sean...
Explain it.
Maybe just help Sean understand the creator economy, what that looks like, and how people make money online.
The creator economy is like a very big, wide bucket. Like a lot of people can fit into the creator economy. So I think if I were to characterize it like very broadly and then zoom in on what I do broadly, it's just people who are making money online by being themselves or showing what they do. And they're making money generally through selling products, selling courses, or doing paid promotions and partnerships. I think paid promotions and partnerships is like 90% of the creator economy revenue. So that's where I focus. The pitch to companies is like, hey, like let's say, you guys for Newman, it's like, do you want to spend $10,000 on meta ads and serve to like this audience that could be interested in it and you can generate some sales? Or do you want to partner with a creator who has, 50,000 followers and their whole kind of creative strategy is how to make better decisions? $10,000 for ads at CPM will be like $4. So do the math on that. I can't do the math. Or you can get this kind of more authentic connection to an audience and you can rent their audience essentially. That's the basis of the creator economy. With micro creators, it's a different story. They don't really have built up audiences, but they can be spokespeople for your brand and they can, tell people, hey, I use this product every day. This is how it helps me. And really, if you look at the last 3 or 4 years, this has been kind of the industry favorite for selling products because people trust random people on the internet more than influencers and more than brands.
Yeah.
Because their kind of thing is a brand always has something to sell me and an influencer is getting paid by a brand. That's kind of how but like these real people, like they might not have that, they might be getting paid at the end of the day, but maybe they don't have as much of an incentive and it's more honest. So that's kind of been the playbook for the last 3 or 4 years.
People buy from people. People don't buy from faceless brands as much anymore. They want to trust, they want to understand the experience, they want to know about the founders, they want to know, who they're buying from. Is this legit? Is this real? There's that level of trust there. And because of social media and digital marketing, we're able to go into a much deeper story. You'll be able to tell people much more about the product than you would have ever been able to have done on a billboard.
If you are looking to get more brand deals and get more partnerships, there are definitely a couple of things I think that help you advance. One is being very clear about what you specialize in. Really kind of specialize on something because like a lot of ways that brands find you is by searching. So if you're, if you want to be a finance creator, just make sure a lot of the content is focused on finance. Maybe finance is in your username, finance is in your bio. You're making videos with like new term, like if finance news comes out, you're making finance news videos. That'll help you be found. I think also just depending on, obviously you should be authentically into what you're doing, but looking for content niches that are underappreciated. Like it's really hard to find guys in their late 20s who make content for some reason. Like that's a niche. Like Josh, who you guys are going to have later on, like he'll let you know, like brands love working with Josh because it's like there's just not a lot of guys in their like mid to late 20s that make content. So yeah, I would say being specialized, being easy to find, have your email in your bio, or just join Simon and don't worry about any of that, and we'll take care of you for it.
I love that. I do want to ask a question about niche though. I'm a mum. I'm a marketer, work in biotech, and I am an endurance athlete. So, but the kind of my niche is decisions. Okay. So, but what I think at the moment is like a lot of the content's not getting traction, even though the consistency and the red thread is decisions and decision fatigue. A lot of the content is presenting, okay, well, that content's about mums, that's about marathon running, that's about marketing, and none of it's really working. Yeah.
So like that might be like the specialization thing where it's like, it's not getting traction because it's showing the mom stuff to the runners. It's showing the runner stuff to the decision makers, so social media, it does it wants to put you in a box. And like when we're talking about like your ability to think, and have like more free thought, like social media is almost in direct opposition to that because it works on organization and it works on almost like more engineering framework than like emotional framework. My 2 thoughts there would be like, how are people aware of decision? Like how big is that market? Like if you were to own 100% of the views of people who wanted to learn about decisions and decision fatigue, I wonder how big that market is. That's an awesome lane. I think you should do that. And everything should just be about how many decisions I made in a day. Here were the 10 most intensive decisions I made, and just really make it all about decisions, cut everything else out. Because there is like a beauty in simplicity, like in design. It's like something can be so beautiful, like so simple, but so beautiful. And there's probably something to that too. Just keeping things really simple.
If I'm a company, can I just make an AI influencer?
Yeah. So there's a lot of really good companies that are working on this. I think
because humans are like
one that
undependable, right?
Yeah. So that market of AI generated content, AI generated influencers, that market, I think, I'm a big estimator, not a big exact guy, but I think that market's going to grow like 2,000 to 3,000% in the next year, 2 years. Also, the technology really isn't there yet, to my understanding, for like net new frame generation. So the way that when you see like an AI influencer, it's a real person and they're just moving the pixels around the lips and the face. So it's not really an AI generated person. It's a real person who is being augmented to say whatever you want. There are overlap. There are people who are great at content, great at building companies, and those people like invest in those people because those people are rock stars. But like the skill set that it takes to build a product or build a company is so different than the skill set it takes to make good content. So yeah, we really did build it for entrepreneurs, marketing teams. And yeah, we're having some good success with it so far. So we'll see how far it goes.
How are you managing to acquire creators?
Yeah. So, it's funny, like in an AI company, you'd be surprised how much stuff is manual. So currently, we launched a month ago. We have about 200 creators on the platform right now. We're going to get to about 500 by the end of the year. But the thing is, all of the creators are curated by us. So our team has relationships. We've been in the industry and we're manually reaching out to the best ones. So this isn't 200 random creators on the internet. This is 200 of the best creators we know. Something that we also do is we get them to sign onto the platform and provide their pricing so that there's no negotiation with the companies. You're able to say, hey, here's the creator, here's the idea, here's the price, let's go. And we can get that to you in 3 minutes rather than, 4 weeks or whatever it takes. And, if you're in marketing, velocity is the most important thing. Most agencies... Velocity, your ability to ship new ads, new creatives.
Quickly as possible.
And
so just speed.
Speed. Yeah. Speed's a better word. Velocities. Yeah. But if it takes you 4 weeks to make content, you have 12 iteration cycles throughout the year. And I'm really selling hard right now. But, if you're on Simon, it takes a week to get content. So you're going to get 52 iterations of content in a year versus 12. And you're going to look up and you're going to be, 4 years ahead of your competitors.
How many times do I need to see your company or brand before because if that much content, do I need to see you how many times?
Yeah. So
before I buy,
there's a couple of different things going on. So in the business, they call that frequency.
Right.
And so
that makes sense.
Yeah. And so, I think there is some like golden number, like 4 or 5, sometimes it's like 9 or 10 ads, but really it's about, finding the right ad for the right customer. And so, you might resonate with some creative that, she doesn't resonate with. So the idea is have enough creatives so that the algorithm can send you the one you're going to resonate with and her the one she's going to resonate with. And you're going to get 2 sales instead of 0 sales.
Right. What you're looking at there is something called attribution modeling. And so attribution modeling is something nobody has figured out yet. And it's basically how many times your brand is exposed to somebody before they buy, but you're not just looking at one platform. Okay. So, and let's take a bigger brand. Let's take someone like Coca-Cola. You see them on a billboard. You see them at the bus stop. You see them as a trailer on TV. You see them as a YouTube pre-roll. You then see them 50 times on social media throughout the day. You might see a podcast where somebody's mentioning Coca-Cola. All of these things will contribute to you buying a Coca-Cola. When you look at something like Coca-Cola in that instance, it's what all of those things are doing combined is top of mind awareness. So that when they're thirsty and they go to the fridge, the first thing they're going to think of is Coca-Cola because they've been exposed to the brand so much over the course of the day, the week, their life. So if you've got an RTD, that what we kind of call brand marketing is massively important so that you are top of mind when they go to the fridge. If we're looking at conversion-based marketing just online, you can track it, but still not to the extent that you would like to say, okay, they need to see your brand 5 times in order for them to buy it. Mm-hmm. One thing I will say though is if the content that is coming from a creator or from the brand itself is so good, it might only take one hit to convert.
How much of this is dependent upon, like we call it, like the algorithm, right?
But I think there is important context too, as far as like defining a conversion and how you set up your business to best succeed on social media. You know, the if you have like a impulse buy product, let's say under $20 or something, you can play that game. You know, if you have a product that takes more consideration, you know, you don't want to just drive them straight to the purchase, drop them off at the landing page. It's getting their email and then or having them download something, and that becomes the conversion. So the conversion event changes based on kind of what product you have, and the marketing strategy is very much dependent on the product category.
Right.
Yeah. So you're looking at your funnel.
Right. But what again, like just the algorithm. Yeah. So I make 50 videos. Mm-hmm. How dependent am I upon the algorithm to find where those videos match with the customer? Are
you putting paid spend behind it, or are you just uploading it?
Paid spend. Like how I guess what I'm driving at is how important is meta in all of this to find your customer?
Yeah. So that's actually something that's changing a lot with AI. And they expect that advertising on Meta is going to get more and more fruitful. We'll see. But those algorithms are extremely important. You generally have someone called like a performance marketer. And so what they're doing is they're creating the campaigns where, you know, they might have like levels of interest targeting and age targeting. Then they might have like a retargeting strategy. So, you know, if John clicks this ad, let's hit him with this ad. So there's like a retargeting strategy area. But, you know, recently, a lot, Google has shifted to this PMax campaign, Performance Max, where it's like, hey, don't do anything. Let us just run.
That's my question, right?
Yeah, so it's going more in that direction.
Okay. Because they have way more info than you could ever possibly hope.
But funnily enough, you still really like, so my agency still runs. I'm full-time on Simon now, but my agency is still other guys are running it. And, you know, we came into this one account and I think they were making $6,000-$7,000 a month from Google, and then just kind of like automating it. And then we came in, Andrew, this super talented guy I've worked with for years, and he came in and now they're making like $50,000-$60,000 a month. So that was like a difference in, you know, 10x the performance essentially by not relying on the automated tool. So I think a lot of the times, there's a dumb tax. You know what I mean? It's like, if you want to just let us do it, there's a tax where the tax is in performance. Like you can still get some results, but you really kind of want an expert at the wheel. That could change it. I would watch. It's kind of like, yeah, these things are just getting smarter and smarter. The other side of that is like, you see how hard it is to get jobs these days. And you see that companies are reducing headcount. And, you know, that is, I think, going to be one of the first big kind of negative effects of AI is like these companies are figuring out how to solve for these problems. I think AI should be an accelerant. Like, I think it should let companies do more. I think it's actually, if your company adopts AI and you're like, we need to hire people, I would bet on that company. If your company adopts AI and it's like, hey, we cut those people, I think that company is going to fail. Because to me, AI is just an accelerant. And so like, it's either accelerating you to your death or accelerating you to success. And I think if AI doesn't allow you to hire more people, it means you're not growing your business. So there is like, I think there's a lot of failing companies that are scapegoating headcount as the reason why they're failing. And they're like, oh, AI is going to save us. It's like, no, AI doesn't save your failing business. You need to reinvent your entire business. I'm
right now in the process of trying to look at what the marketing team of the future looks like. Mm-hmm. Like, how do we build a marketing team from the ground up and scrap every single role, because those roles don't exist in the same way anymore. And it's like, right, okay, what agents can we build to take over some of the jobs to be done?
Like Simon.
Yeah, exactly, right? You know, like the sourcing people, whatever it is, right? Yeah. But then when we do hire people, what are their roles? Like, how do they manage those AI agents? What does that role look like? Like, they're no longer, maybe it's more of a creative role. Mm-hmm. Like we're no longer having people who are, well, you're just paid media and you just do that and you just, you do the email and you stay in your lane. Like maybe it's one person is takes on kind of multiple roles using these different AI agents.
I think traditionally marketing advertising is like a really funny field, like in corporate world, because you kind of get all these rejects. Like no one grows up like, I want to be a marketer.
Oh, wait. I did. Okay. I literally, on my 14th birthday, an ad agency came into my school and did a 2-day workshop where we got to be creatives and account managers and work on a live brief for Nike. And I was like, this is what I want to do. And it was at the same time that Mel Gibson's What Women Want came out. And that was when he worked for an ad agency and they were working on this big Nike campaign. And I was like, that's it. So my whole education, I went to uni and studied creative.
I made a generalization. My experience is, most people, they don't grow up and say, I want to be a marketer, I want to be an advertiser. But you get these people who just don't fit into other boxes. Like they're not analytical enough for finance. They're not autistic enough for engineering. And it's just like the island of misfit toys. That's how I feel.
It is like that. When you work in ad age, it's like, oh, what did you study? And it's like someone's gone geography or like psychology.
The really ironic thing is that there's nothing more important for a company than customer acquisition. It's like they're the most important people in the business. Yeah. You can be the most talented XYZ. If you can't get people to use your product, I don't know how you're going to make it. And you can trade on just having a great product, but that better be the product better be just out of this world. Like 99% of the times you are going to compete with people who have, who are really good. And so you're going to need to beat them with marketing or a superior product.
Yeah. This has been such a fascinating conversation. Oh God, we are actually over time. I was going to go and look.
Did we get to any question?
No.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's good. We had it. I think we pretty much covered everything without actually covering it. So
that's the best anyway.
Yeah. No. Ted, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Fascinating.
And to everyone still listening and watching, we will link to all Ted's profile. Not that you'll find much about him on social media. And believe me, I even used AI to try and scrape what little was about him on there. But we will link to the companies below so you can check those out. And as always, thank you for watching and make every decision count. Bye.